They don't realize this. They never understand this, that suffering a consequence is a choice. Don't ever suffer the consequence. Deal with the consequences. The consequences of your actions. If you do a crime and then you have to go to jail, don't suffer the consequences, because that's what a punk would do. A punk would be like, suffering the consequences is bitching about it. I can't believe I have to. No, dealing with the consequences, like, all right, I'm gonna handle it. I did this. I gotta handle this like a man now. When you go to jail or you go to prison or whatever, and you confessing just to get a lighter sentence, or you just, yeah, I did this. You got to embrace your consequences as well, because you learn something out of that. You ever hear somebody that say that sorry motherfucker just went to jail, or this sorry person just went to jail, but he comes out of jail, ain't nobody got nothing bad to say about him? You know why? Because you don't know what he had to do in there. The man that go in there and do 10 years in prison is not the same man that's gonna come out. You don't know the hardships. You don't know that he had to learn how to fight just in case a fight break out. You don't know how many push-ups he had to do to get himself in shape. You don't know that hard times of not being able to use the bathroom in privacy and getting treated like an animal in a cage, and have to look over that. Maybe having to even brush your teeth out of a toilet bowl. Learning how to cook certain things from scratch. Learning how to look over, maybe being the only race in one section. Learning how to deal with certain things. Yes, even though certain things suck, eating those bad lunches and those bad dinners and all that other stuff that's not tasty at all. Maybe some of their least favorite food they would never eat when they're free, but they gotta eat them now because that's the only way they'll survive. Prison makes you a man too. We can't tell that person that been to prison about anything about. That's the type of man that they had to become. So when they come out, they're a whole different man. That's why they get a whole different level of respect. But the most important is they didn't suffer the consequences. They deal with the consequences. They go into this foreign place where people telling them what to do. They may cry for the first 2 days or whatever, but then suffering turns into adaptation. Then you start to adapt to what your surroundings are, and now you're adapting, and now you're doing what you have to do, need and necessary in order to survive in that surrounding. You as a man should never suffer the consequences. You're supposed to deal with the consequences. That is a whole nother ball game. Yes, it's supposed to hurt. It's supposed to burn when you touch a hot stove. That's part of being that's the first step of being a man, is learning how to say, okay, I got myself into this. How I'm gonna get myself out of it. You know what suffering the consequences is? Going in there being disrespectful, dealing with stuff. Maybe your wife caught you cheating and you handling it in a weak way. Come back, don't do this to me, I'll shoot this shit up. However you want to go about it. That's suffering the consequences. Not being able to accept that in life you're gonna have to deal with consequences all the time. Suffering of consequences is not accepting that you have to deal with this consequences. You gotta accept it. You gotta accept what comes with your actions. Never suffer a consequence, deal with the consequences. And only that, out of all that bullshit that you go through, and when you make it to the end of that, maybe you can realize, if you don't suffer it, if you deal with it, and when you come out of it, you can just be able to say, I have embraced greatness and walk in positivity.